It is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus, and we'd like to remind you that ProBox TV will continue with the long-form content like the ranking show and big fight breakdown, and top stories will continue its own separate playlist on our YouTube channel. And you can listen to the show where podcasts are available as well. I am joined by the champions. We have Chris Algieri, and we have Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, two undefeated fighters that have maybe divergent paths in their career. Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz were born 9 months apart, and they started their pro careers 3 months apart. However, it seems like Ortiz at 154 may have better big money options, and Ennis might be kind of stagnant in his career, even though 147 might have some quality depth at welterweight, So, Paulie, whose career for now in the immediate future is going up, and whose career might be just stagnant or even a little bit on the way down?
I don't know if there's anybody who's going down out of these two right now. I mean, but you look at Ortiz, and because he's in the right weight class with a lot of talent and a lot of potential rivalries, you say to yourself, okay, he's in the better. He's more in the driver's seat, right? I mean, Ennis has been the guy who could not get those big names. They all left the division. They sort of tiptoed around him and never really let him into the club, so to speak. And so he's sort of still thriving off of potential, you know. And don't get me wrong, Vergil really went through some of this as well with the blood disease, the blood issue that he had.
Rhabdo.
I don't know if it was caused by him making weight or whatnot. Champ, what was that called again? That blood stuff?
Rhabdomyolysis.
Rhabdomyolysis.
All those big words. The champ, Chris Algieri. That's why we got him for here, man. He understands that, and so that's why I'm trying to put that together, because, you know, Vergil a second ago, you know, all of a sudden we're separating these two and like, oh, you know, he's in such a more positive position than Ennis. A second ago, Vergil was in the same position, maybe worse. So the moral of the story is your fortunes can change quickly in boxing. You really overnight, you know. Vergil just had a whoop with Boachuk, and now he's a talk of the town because he got the decision. He could have just as easily have not gotten that decision, and then we'd be talking about him as not the talk of the town, you know. So really things can go literally on a coin flip sometimes. There's a fine line. You know, you ever heard the line? There's a fine line between love and hate. There's a fine line between stardom and mediocrity sometimes, you know. And in this case, I don't think either of these guys will ever be mediocre, but I do think that right now the positivity is more so on the side of Vergil because he's in the weight class where there's more potential, and not so much because he's necessarily better. I don't know which one of these guys is better. They're both terrific fighters.
Yeah, Champ, I couldn't agree more. You know, George, I think you said that they started their careers 3 months apart.
Right.
Well, I feel like they're 3 months apart right now too, and I think that JARON Ennis just signing his new deal with Matchroom, he got his first fight out of the way from being inactive with Avanesian, and he looked pretty good. You know, he said he had some ring rust, which was apparent, but still got a good win, get a stoppage over a very, very tough guy. And Vergil Ortiz, who before the Boachuk fight was fighting blown-up welterweights against guys that were basically no hopers and not getting those big name opportunities. So he had his fight this past weekend. I think Ennis is going to be on tap for a big fight very, very soon. So I think actually these guys are probably in pretty similar places, depending on which fight that Ennis can get secured next and how he performs. But yeah, both these guys are super talented. And like you said, Champ, a lot of this is based on potential between these two. And when you look at them under the microscope, both of these guys are absolutely phenomenal talents and can be dominant stars in this sport. But you got to get the big fights, and you got to win the big fights, and you got to perform, and not only perform, but you have to impress. So it's for number one, you got to get the fight. Two, you got to make it happen. Vergil made it happen over the weekend, barely, and now he's looking on for bigger, better things. I think Ennis gets a bigger opportunity in his next fight, and we'll be talking about Ennis moving into big time fights at 147 as well.
I think one thing is for sure that both of them are supremely talented, and big fights are in their future. And by the way, you definitely want to check out Eric Raskin's article on the career paths of JARON Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz on BoxingScene.com. It is a fabulous read, and definitely going to learn something about the two career paths of those two great fighters. All right, Paulie and Chris, thank you very much for your time here on Top Stories. And we'd like to remind you to scan the QR code and check out August 21st, the best live fight series on the planet. Wednesday Night Fights returns August 21st with a spectacular card. You don't want to miss it here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus, and this is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, August 21st. Former Unified World Champion Swift Jarrett Hurd takes on former Unified World Champion Jason Banana Rosario. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at proboxtv.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.